So many people dream of winning the lottery, but they don't realize the nightmares or the problems that can come along with it. As they say, more money brings more problems. Jeffrey Dampier won $20 million in Illinois in 1996, and he was shot dead by his sister-in-law Victoria and her boyfriend Nathaniel in 2005. One Christmas, Jeffrey took 38 members of his family on a week-long Caribbean vacation. He also bought his parents and 9 siblings houses and cars and opened up a gourmet popcorn store. He showered Victoria with presents and even paid for her apartment. When his second wife's sisters, Victoria and Terry, were having money problems, he would always take care of it. The reason why is because he was actually having an affair with Victoria, who had also started a relationship with another man named Nathaniel Jackson. Nathaniel knew that Jeffrey had won the lottery, so he was dating Victoria to get closer to the money. According to Victoria, she went to Nathaniel's apartment on July 26, 2005. He then told her to call Jeffrey and claim that she was having car trouble so that he would come to Nathaniel's apartment. Jeffrey was known for working on cars. Once Jeffrey arrived, his hands were bound with shoelaces and he was forced into a van at gunpoint. His body was found shortly after in the van on the side of the road. And Nathaniel fled to Jacksonville and he spent Jeffrey's money on clothes and jewelry, but he didn't spend all of it because there was money in his pocket and it had Jeffrey's blood on it. Victoria had pulled the trigger, and fortunately, they were both sentenced to 3 life sentences. Billy Bob Harrell won $31 million on June the 28th, 1997 in Texas. Before he won the lottery, he was a Marine and he worked as a stocker at Home Depot after he lost his job as a print shop manager. Every Wednesday and Saturday, he would purchase a few lottery tickets. After he won the lottery and received his first annual payment of $1.24 million, he thought that all of his problems were over. He took a trip to Hawaii and he graciously shared his wealth. He often gave to charities and to his church. He even donated 480 turkeys to those in need. He purchased a ranch and several homes for his wife and his 3 children, as well as homes for other family members. He also purchased new cars for his family, and their lifestyles dramatically changed as well. As with a lot of lottery winners, his spending habits had gotten out of control and his problems actually increased. His lavish spending caught the wrong attention, and he had to change his phone number several times because strangers would call and demand that he give them money. He and his wife, Barbara Jean, separated 8 months later because he was having an affair with a younger woman. He and his wife split the winnings, but unfortunately, almost 2 years after his win, on May 22, 1999, Bob's son found him dead at his ex-wife's home. He had taken his life before he was set to have dinner with her and their children. He left her a note that said, "I didn't want this, I just wanted you." Before his death, he told his financial advisor that winning the lottery was the worst thing that ever happened to him. William Bud Post III was 66 when he won $16.2 million in Pennsylvania in 1988, and he was often compared to the Beverly Hillbillies. He only had $2.46 in his bank account, so he pawned a ring for $40 and he used it to buy 40 lottery tickets. 2 weeks after he collected the first of his 26 annual payments of $497,953.47, he had already spent more than $300,000. He acquired a liquor license, a lease on a Florida restaurant for his brother and sister, a used car lot, and a twin-engine plane, even though he didn't even have a pilot's license. Within only 3 months, he was $500,000 in debt. A year later, he bought a mansion for $395,000 and he started to renovate it. But soon, his landlady/girlfriend eventually sued him because she claimed they had agreed to share the money if he won. A judge ordered Bud to give her a third of the winnings, or about $5.3 million, but he couldn't pay that, so his lottery payouts were frozen. He was also now estranged from his siblings, and his brother hired a hitman to kill him and his 6th wife so that he would receive any future annual payouts. In 1996, Bud came up with a way to get out of debt, so he thought. He sold the mansion for $65,000 and he auctioned off the remaining 17 annual lottery payments to attempt to clear his bills and have some money left over. Unfortunately, by the next year, he had spent almost all of the remaining $2.65 million on his debts and 2 homes, another truck, 3 cars, 2 Harley-Davidson motorcycles, 2 62-inch Sony televisions, a luxury camper, computers, and a $260,000 sailboat that was docked in Biloxi, Mississippi, and he was planning on starting a charter fishing business. He was arrested on this boat in 1998 after he refused to surrender to serve a prison sentence on an assault conviction. He said, "Once I'm no longer a lottery winner, people will leave me alone. That's all I want." He said, "Before I hit the lottery, I was more content. I had no pressure. I didn't have the worries. I had friends. I could go places and do things, even though I didn't have money." And after he served his prison sentence, he was reportedly living on a $450 per month disability check. He died of respiratory failure. His survivors included his 7th wife and 9 children that he had with his 2nd wife. Abraham Shakespeare was 43 when he stopped at a convenience store with his coworker named Michael Ford, and Michael asked Abraham if he wanted anything. He said, "Yeah, 2 lottery tickets." One of the tickets turned out to be a winner, so Abraham chose to take a one-time lump sum payment, which amounted to just over $16.9 million, and after taxes, he walked away with $11 million. Michael ended up taking Abraham to court, saying that he was the one that paid for the tickets and that Abraham had stolen the tickets out of his wallet. Abraham said that he paid Michael $2 for the ticket, and Abraham ended up winning the lawsuit. Shortly after Abraham won the lottery, he purchased a Rolex watch from a pawn shop and this beautiful home in Lakeland, Florida. It wasn't long before Abraham got tired of people constantly asking him for money. He said that he would have been better off broke, and he thought that all of these people were his friends, but then he realized that all they wanted was his money. A lady named Dee Moore came into his life, and she said that she wanted to write a book about him, and that she would help him manage his money. When he agreed, she immediately started spending the money on herself. She started a business with Abraham called Abraham Shakespeare, LLC, and she gave herself control over the company's funds. She withdrew at least $1 million from the company to buy herself a Hummer, a truck, and a Chevrolet Corvette before leaving for a vacation. She also took possession of Abraham's home. Now, he didn't go far in school and he couldn't read or write, so that made it even easier for her to take advantage of him. In November of 2009, Abraham disappeared, and he was reported missing by his family the following April. Dee was living in his home during this time. She claimed that Abraham had given her the money as a gift when questioned by the police. They were suspicious of Dee, so they started to watch her. They got a friend of Abraham's to record his conversations with her, and he came up with the idea of hiding a recording device in a Red Bull can. At this point, Dee was getting a little paranoid, and she was desperately trying to make it appear like Abraham was still alive. So she would text his family and pretend to be him. She even gave his friend a few $100s to call Abraham's mother and pretend to be him. She sent his son $5,000 for his birthday and offered an unidentified person $200,000 to report a false sighting of Abraham. In January of 2010, his body was found. He had been shot twice in the chest and he was buried 5 feet under a concrete slab on a property that was owned by Dee Moore. The property had been purchased with one of Abraham's checks shortly after his death. Dee Moore was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. She's never taken responsibility for Abraham's death, and she's tried to blame drug dealers, a lawyer, and even her own 14-year-old son. David Edwards was broke and unemployed, so he borrowed some money from a friend to pay his water bill. He spent the remaining money on a pizza and 2 lottery tickets. Then he became $27 million richer. To celebrate his win, he took out a loan to go celebrate in Las Vegas. And within 5 days, he was calling his new lawyer to wire him even more money. On top of that, he bought a $1.6 million, 6,000 square foot mansion in a private gated community in Palm Beach, Florida, as well as another $600,000 house nearby. Then he purchased a 1.9 Learjet, 3 racehorses, a $200,000 Lamborghini Diablo, and a $90,000 Dodge Viper. At one point, he had so many cars in his driveway that his neighbors were complaining because it looked like a car lot. He paid his ex-wife $500,000 to get custody of his daughter Tiffany, and he bought her a $35,000 Hummer golf cart, even though she was only 11 and she wasn't old enough to drive it. In the first 3 months, David Edwards had spent $3 million. 1 year later, he had spent $12 million. When he first won, he gave some press conferences, and he said that he wasn't going to spend his money frivolously, but that didn't last long, obviously, because soon he was wearing a $78,000 diamond-encrusted gold watch, a $159,000 ring, and he was proudly showing off his $30,000 plasma screen TV. Eventually, David and his wife Shauna spent a fortune on cocaine, prescription pills, and heroin. Between expensive and unsuccessful spells in rehab and countless run-ins with police, both contracted hepatitis from using dirty needles. It was also reported that he was generous in handing out drugs to friends, and when some died of overdoses, he would pay for their funeral. By 2006, 5 years later, he had spent all of his money. He and Shauna were now totally broke. So they moved into a storage unit where they were surrounded by their own waste, rotten food, crack pipes, and syringes. And David died at the age of 58 in hospice care. His former financial advisor said that he had initially invested $16 million of the winnings to try to prevent David from spending it all. He said that if David had followed my investment advice, he would be pulling in about $85,000 a month for the rest of his life, but instead he sold the lot. The American National Endowment for Financial Education says that 70% of lottery winners who win big are broke within a few years. Marie Holmes was a single mother with several jobs, and she was struggling to care for her 4 children. One of her children had cerebral palsy, so she had to quit working so that she could stay home and care for him. So one day when she stopped at a gas station in North Carolina, she decided to purchase a few lottery tickets. The North Carolina Powerball jackpot that day was $564 million. She and 2 other people won that day, so she won a third of the money, or $188 million. After taxes, it came to $87.9 million. The winning numbers were 11, 13, 25, 39, 54, and 19. Marie said that she dreamed of being able to provide for her family and to move them out of their single-wide trailer, and finally her dream had come true. During a press conference, she talked about how she wanted to finish her college degree. She wanted to buy a house for her mother and to put aside some money for her 3 daughters and her son. She said, "I started screaming and jumping around, and I said to my kids, you just don't understand what this means." She gave 10% of her winnings to her church, Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist, which came to about $700,000. She also started the Marie Holmes Foundation, which sponsored a back-to-school drive that provided backpacks and school supplies to 300 local children. But, like so many lottery winners, friends and family started harassing her for money. She also had a boyfriend named Lamar McDowell, who's a career criminal. He was actually in jail when she won the lottery. Lamar didn't really have anything going for himself. He had about $100 to his name. But now he had a rich girlfriend that could bail him out no matter how much it costs, and he certainly took that for granted. Marie's father was also involved in drugs and had gone to prison, so it became a cycle of hurt for her. The man that she loved the most ended up in prison and away from her. And she talked about this on Iyanla Fix My Life a year after she won the lottery. Something else that she talked about on the show was Marie posting a $3 million bond to bail Lamar out in 2014 when he was caught with bags of heroin. However, Lamar says that Marie didn't pay millions of dollars to bail him out because she only had to pay 10% of the bond. So let's say she only paid 10%. 10% of $3 million is $300,000. She also posted his bond of $6 million. So 10% of that is $600,000. That was the following month. Then she posted a $12 million bond, or $1.2 million in 2015. But would you believe that he had the audacity to sue her in 2018 because he says that while he was in prison, she gave away or sold the gifts that she had given to him when they were together. But the complaint was voluntarily dismissed by him in 2019. He filed a second complaint against her the same year, and Marie filed a notice of removal and a motion to dismiss his claims the following year. Now, some of the things that she bought this man were a $15,000 diamond Rolex watch, a $250,000 Chevy Stingray, 2 dump trucks totaling $125,000, $100,000 worth of clothes and jewelry, a $600,000 automotive shop, and 77 acres in Ashe County, North Carolina for a dirt bike track that cost $80,000. Later, it was revealed that Lamar had been cheating on Marie despite everything that she'd done for him.